Well, our first comic coming to the stage tonight is from Seattle, Washington, and has lived in LA for 30 years working in film and television. Happily married, but spends most of his time with the cat that crawled in his kitchen window one day and never left. So please give a nice warm round of applause for Christian Wienker.
You sound like you all made rent this month. That must be nice. So I want to thank Dow Comedy Studio for letting me go first tonight. It's imperative that I go first in order to promote my book that's coming out tonight. It's my book on comedy, titled Never Follow Anyone Funnier Than You. What I've learned in 8 weeks of stand-up. It's short. It's just for me. But yeah, we got the Oscars coming up. That's exciting, yeah? It's always nice to see artists get recognized for their work and for who their parents are. I'll never forget walking in here 8 weeks ago. First thing I saw, you can see these comedy albums up here. And it brought back so many memories, because when I was a kid, you know, all the great stuff here. Lynn Bruce, Janine Garofalo, Carlin. As a kid, I listened to some of these albums so much that even all these years later, I could probably still recite it. I just hadn't thought about it until I saw them. And the reason is, it wasn't for any other reason that I wasn't allowed to listen to the music that other kids could listen to. I'll never forget, it was 4th grade. I got a Fisher-Price turntable for my birthday. And my neighbor, a buddy of mine, his older brother, lent me a Doors album. And I didn't know from music, and I didn't know who the Doors were. I mean, to be honest, the guy on the cover kind of made me feel funny, you know? I think Jim Morrison was my first crush. So I brought the album home, and I learned 2 very important things that day, things that have stuck with me and affected me every day of my life. One, I learned that I really love rock and roll music. And 2, I learned that my dad hates hippies. Yeah, so no rock and roll for me. I tried to sneak a David Bowie album in like a year later, and he found it, and he was like, "Who's this draft dodger?" So my friends that could listen to rock and roll albums, they would tell me about these fantasies they were having. You know, fantasies of being rock stars, of being pulled up on stage, and playing to the crowd. The fantasies were something like this. Stage manager approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry to say that Gene Simmons has fallen off of his 8-inch platform heels. He cannot perform tonight. Does anyone in the audience know the bass line to Rock and Roll All Night? Come on up. You get up and say good day. But because of what I was listening to, my fantasies were a little bit different. Something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, apparently we had the same stage manager on Dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry to inform you that Steve Martin has had an unfortunate balloon animal incident and cannot perform. Does anybody know the arrow through the head routine? Come on. I get up and save the day. So, I was, I'm sure like most of you, you've already written your awards acceptance speech, right? I have. For Lifetime Achievement in Comedy. I did it, this may sound pretentious, but I did it immediately after my first open mic. Because I was starting to feel alive. It was a cool experience. And I had been in a funk for a couple of years. It's been hard. I mean, we've all had some serious downtime forced on us. There was COVID, right? And then, of course, rehab. And then the strike, another rehab. I just had a lot of downtime, that's what I'm saying. So doing this, I started to feel alive again. And as artists, we have to do that. We have to communicate. We have to express ourselves. We have to work for it. Find the love in the world and express it, communicate. And over these last couple, I've worked in this town a long time in the industry. And what I saw from the people that have been signing my checks all these decades was them actively trying to make sure they never had to sign the check for an artist again. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, you're damn right. I went home and I wrote a speech about my love for the arts. I mean, I was tired, so I had AI write it for me. But and I also thinking about these albums, you know, the juxtaposition between rock star and comedian. You know, singers can come to the front of the stage and hang the microphone over the crowd. You know, the crowd has spent so much time listening to the albums that they'll finish the chorus or say the words. You know, see if you can get the crowd involved. So I thought it might go something like this. You got to work on this at a comedy concert. My apartment in Glendale is so small.
How small is it?
See, if I had an album out, you guys would know the rest of it. So yeah, no rock and roll growing up for me. And you know, I love my dad, but it was tumultuous at best. So I'm in college in 1990. And anybody alive in 1990? So you remember Desert Shield and WMDs? Remember WMDs? So I hadn't talked to my parents for a while. I went to visit them on a break in college. And imagine my surprise when I get home and I hear through the walls my dad just talking about weapons of mass destruction. I'm thinking to myself, my God, those guys sound awesome. Who was this melodic death metal band that set my dad straight? But it wasn't me. Something that happened on Thursday that I haven't had a lot of time to work on, but I want to share with you guys. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, so Thursday, some friends I hadn't seen in years, I kept in touch with them, but they came to town for an event. Not to see me, but we got together, and it was lovely. You know, we had dinner, we caught up, and we decided to go into the outdoor hot tub out back. And I go out there and I take off my shirt. And I hear this loud, shrieking voice. My God, you look old! I'm like looking around like, all right, who said that? Guys, it was me. I caught my reflection in the slide glass door. I went in shock. So I wasn't feeling the. I mean, I'm old. I'm getting old. I'm lucky to be alive. Let's put it that way. I'm grateful. But I was feeling a little down, so I called my wife. She always makes me feel better. And she said, treat yourself. Go to a salon. So I did. Like I said, I'd been in a funk. I was looking pretty raggedy. So I found a guy. We didn't speak the same language, but I was in a mood. I gave him some signals and he said, go for it. And it was wonderful. You know, he cut my hair, he shaped my beard, even did my eyebrows the first time. And I walked out of there feeling pretty wonderful. Until I got home and I realized I just looked like a wannabe hipster Vladimir Lenin. Right? You see it? Former Soviet head of state with a bad toupee. And I couldn't get that image out of my head, so I looked him up. I knew a little bit about him, I looked him up. He died at the age I am now of a blood and circulation disorder similar to the one I have. So I was back to feeling kind of pretty again, but here's the thing, I'm taking so much better care of myself. I mean, I really am. I have to. I don't have the energy I used to. I can't stay out late. You know, that second wind that I used to rely on even a couple of years ago, I have no more second wind. By second wind, I mean cocaine. Getting old is rough. I went to Florida a couple of years ago to work on a show. Anybody been to Florida?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I have some things to say. So I went there, and here's the thing about Florida. There are no mountains in Florida. There's no peaks. There's no hills. There's no elevations to climb. Floridians can never get, you know, an elevated view of the world. Florida is very fascist. All right, now I'm not dumb enough to, I'll put it this way. I've learned not to engage a Trump supporter in any meaningful conversation. At least the ones I know. Maybe it's me. But I want to know what was in Trump's ex-wife's coffin. Did you see that? Ivana Trump? She died. She fell down the stairs. Auspicious time. You should look it up. But that's not my point. If you saw the news of the service, there were 10 guys. 10 guys struggling to carry this coffin. She was 73 years old, a Czechoslovakian former swimsuit model, who was cremated. 10 guys carrying this casket out of the venue, struggling. I'm so sick of this guy. I mean, give me a break. It only took 4 guys to carry Orson Welles' casket. That's just the King joke, a week before the Oscars. All right, anybody still working on a New Year's resolution? No? Anybody making a New Year's resolution? All right, so I did, and for the first time in my life, I am sticking to it. It's the 3rd month already, right? This year, I resolved to utterly and completely quit trying to quit smoking. Cold turkey. Best thing I ever did. I'm less irritable. I smell better. I step right off the stage and go back to killing myself on a layaway. All right, you guys. That's my time. Thank you so much.